do. Hey everybody, welcome to a subscriber Q&A here at J Stern Designs. Yesterday during my Fit Tip Tuesday video, I promised I was moving on to another topic, sort of off shirts and sleeve fitting and back onto something else, but I got a really great question about doing a full bust adjustment, but also combining it with adding ease through the waist and hip. So I thought, you know what, I am just going to share this now because it's continuing on with what we've been doing here all last month and the beginning of this month. So I'm going to show you how to do this. And the funny thing is, before I started J Stern Designs, I worked at a sewing store called Manchester Sewing. And at that store is really where I learned how to do a lot of the things I know how to do now. I mean, I've obviously grown from that point, but back then I took every class I could get my hands on from all the talented coworkers that I had. And one of those people, and this is actually kind of funny, I don't normally talk about this very often because it just doesn't come up, but I don't know if you realize this, but me, Gail Yellen, and Pamela Leggett all came out of Manchester Sewing. So three major, sewing educators, all out of the same store, which was kind of cool. Hi, Tana. It's so good to see you too. So back in the day, and I'm talking 15, almost 20 years ago at Manchester Sewing, when I learned how to do fitting, I started with the Palmer Pletch method. And I don't know if you guys know, but Pamela Leggett is like the East Coast ambassador of Palmer and Pletch. And it's a very nice method. And then as I got going with my own processes, I kind of went a different way. But I do remember doing a full bust adjustment with, using Palmer and Pletch. There was some additional ease that was added down lower past the bust area. So I find this very interesting, thinking about it now, how I could combine doing a full bust adjustment and also adding ease. So let me show you how I would do it. Hi Lynn, welcome. This has to be a quick breezy Q&A session today because I have my granddaughter I have to pick up. So I want to get right to it here. And you can see I made my little minis here. And you can see this is the the bust dart. And I'm just going to blow out the lighting here and maybe just back it off a little bit. I'm sorry. I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, so we want to do a full bust adjustment, and that is going to increase this area. And I just want to sort of highlight in pink. A full bust adjustment affects this general area in a pattern. Okay, so if you have a top that fits everywhere except it's pulling at the bust and you need room, then you can adjust this area to add to the dart intake to make a larger cup shape. But also in this video I'm going to show you how to add ease down here as well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to draw some guidelines here, and you want to draw a line from the tip of the dart. I'm going to go with a different color. Tip of the dart, also to the notch in the sleeve, and then I'm also going to draw a second line. Now normally I would stop that line a little bit below the bust, but in this case I'm going to connect that all the way down to the hem. And since my shirt seems to drift off into nothing here, I'm gonna let me just draw I'll use pink, I guess, to draw the hem. just so we have one here. Okay, so what we're going to do is, to do the full bust adjustment piece of it, I am going to cut out the dart. That's going to be the first thing I'm going to do. All right, so I've cut out the dart. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off this extra along my center front edge too, because I want to separate this. Okay, so I've separated the pattern into a top bodice and a lower bodice through the tip of the dart. Now the next thing I want to do is we're going to decide how much we need to do for a full bust adjustment. And the way I would figure this out is, if you have a fit muslin and your muslin is not closing to center front, the amount of the gap gives you a good idea of how much you need to ease. So how much horizontal ease, plus 1/2 inch. And then the other thing that you can do to customize the other thing that you might want to consider is, if you've already made a muslin of your shirt, look and see if the front of the hem is dipping or pulling up. That means you need more vertical length to get from your neckline and shoulder down over your bust to the hem. So ease across is one thing, but you may also want to consider how much vertical length you might have to add. And that might be different than how much ease you have to add, because you're not doubling it. So for example, I needed 1 inch of ease across. I only need to do a 1/2 inch adjustment to add that ease, right? But let's say the hem is picking up a whole inch. Well, that means we have to spread the piece 1 inch to give you that extra vertical length that you need. All right, so let me just stop and say hi to Lean. Welcome. Oh, you're making tops for your daughter. I love that. I'm rubbing off a jacket for my daughter, and I'm gonna make it into a pattern and then fit it onto her a little bit better. I'm super excited about that project. I was playing with the shawl collar the other day during my great rub-off class this past weekend. So I love sewing stuff for my daughters. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I am going to start with the vertical. Well, wait a minute. Before I go any farther, that takes care of what we need to do for the full bust adjustment. We're going to add 1 inch vertically, and we're going to add a 1/2 inch, which will add a whole inch across to make ease in this garment. The other thing we want to tackle here is we want to add ease through the waist and hip. So I'm just going to make a note here. Let's just say this is my waist. I'm just going to label it waist. And then we have our hip down here, hip hem. All right, so let's say we figured out what we need for our full bust adjustment, and then I just want to make a note that, we need, let's say we need, we want to make a looser fitting waist and hip, and let's say we needed to add, I don't know, I want to make it different than the 1 inch. Let's say we need 2.5 inches at the waist and we need 3 inches at the hem to add extra ease. So we're going to divide that in half, and I'm going to say plus 1 1/4 here, and then we'll say, let's say 1 1/2 down here that we need to add to get this whole thing to fit properly. All right, so what we're going to do is start with the full bust adjustment. I've got it all prepped. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to cut out my armhole just so I can make a pivot, because we're going to create a pivot at the shoulder notch. Okay, and what I want to do is cut my diagonal slash here, create a pivot so I can open that up the 1/2 inch. And that's going to give me the ease I need across. Okay, And I'm looking here, and the one thing I did not organize was my colored sticky notes. I'm going to use pink. I have pink on my wall. I like using these sticky notes because then I don't have to use as much Scotch tape. All right, so let's just put a sticky note here. And I'm going to open this up so it's a 1/2 inch. All right, and I can measure just to make sure, but I'm a pretty good eyeball. Oh, that's a little bit generous. Let me just scoot it back just a little bit. There we go. So there's my 1/2 inch there. And actually, I'm going to just stick a piece of, I'm just trying to think ahead to make sure I don't have to do additional steps here. All right, so I'm just going to, I just want to make better use of my paper. All right, let's do it like this. Hold on. I'm going to put my paper right here. Okay, and then just to make it clear, I'm just going to remove this. I know I don't need that. All right, so I've added the 1/2 inch right here. Okay. The next thing I want to do is add the vertical length I need. And remember, I'm going to add an inch. So what I'm going to do here is I am physically going to draw, first I'm going to draw the bottom of the, I'm just going to draw the bottom of the pattern piece where it is. Then I'm going to measure an inch down like this. Okay, and I'm also going to connect my center front just so I have a guide to connect it back up together. All right, so there's the inch I need. Hey Kim, welcome. Kim's going to be looking for not a full bust adjustment. Oh, you are so funny. I'll show you how to do that quick at the end because it's basically the same thing in reverse. It is true. Sometimes you have to do a small bust adjustment. Sometimes I wish I had to do a small bust adjustment, I'll be honest. All right, so now I'm going to cut off this vertical guideline that I drew. I'm going to leave that over here for now. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put back the center front edge to give me that inch I need, like this. Now I know this looks a little funny because I'm working with a small scale pattern and I wanted to try to use real deal, you know, size spreading here just to show you what's happening. All right, so I've got my 1 inch here, I've got my 1/2 inch here, things are looking good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I think I'm going to use just white paper here because it's going to be too long for my pink markers. I'll color it in after, but basically I'm going to put some paper here. And when I put this piece back, there are a few things I can do to give me the 1.25 inches extra I need here and the 1.5 inches I need down here. Now, the first thing is this particular side seam I have is pretty straight, but a lot of times a side seam will be shaped more like this. So if you need more room in your waist and hip, the first thing you can do to add extra room down under the bust is to straighten out your side seam so you don't have as much, as much taken out at the waist. Now you don't have to get rid of it all, but let's say we can get a 1/2 inch just by straightening that out. So I'm going to go ahead and straighten that out, and that's going to give me, a little bit there. All right, so I'll get the 1/2 inch there. So that's going to leave just, if I've got a 1/2 inch here and I want to have 1.25 inches, I'm now at 3/4 of an inch left. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to connect my top so that I'm getting that 3/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to draw it right here. At the waist I need 3/4 of an inch, so I'm just going to draw a line like that. And then I'm going to connect this down like this. So see, what we've done here is we have added 3/4 here, and then if I measure this down here, I'm at 1 inch and almost 3/8. So I've almost added the total amount I need just by doing this. I'm just going to tape that down. Okay, so now if I needed more at the full hip, if I needed to let that out some more, what I can do here is I can add a second pivot point, let's say right here, and I can slash and spread that out as well. So now I can slash this, make a pivot up here, and I can spread this, the additional little bit I need to make sure I have enough ease. So I can just do something like that. And that's going to give me the total amount of ease I need. I'm just going to put a piece of pink under here. All right, so let's look and see what we've done so far. We have added all of this, which should be pink, but it was bigger than my Post-it notes. I'm just going to color it in pink. Okay, so we've got a full bust adjustment. We've got added through the waist and through the hip. Now the last thing we have to do, obviously, is put the dart back. So, and I probably should have done that first. But basically, what we're going to do here is we are going to redraw the dart. So our upper dart leg is going to be here, like this. Okay, and then the lower dart is going to go like this. Now this looks huge because I'm working with a tiny little pattern piece, but there's our new larger dart that's going to give us the is going to give us the cup, the larger cup size that we need for a full bust. Now one thing I will say is I didn't take into consideration that I needed to check the position of the dart, and I do have videos that show make sure the dart is in the right position. So I am connecting it back to its original tip because I didn't cover moving it up or down to get it in the right place vertically. Lean is saying, what about the side seam back piece, and can you compensate this with the larger dart? Okay, so that's a good question, Lean. We did not change the length of the side seam. We might have shortened it a little bit because a curved line is longer than a straight line when we straighten the side seam. But all of the extra that we added went into the dart at the side seam. So our original side seam is still here and here. We didn't change it. All of the spread went into the dart. That's why the dart is so big. All right, so then what I'm going to do is we want to measure the dart legs. So I'm going to measure the top leg, and let's say it's 2 inches. Then I'm going to measure the bottom dart leg, and in this instance, the bottom dart leg is 2 3/8 of an inch. So we have to make sure the dart legs are the same. Sometimes the bottom dart leg is shorter than the top, but in this case, it's longer. So what I'm going to do here is I'm literally going to extend this dart leg out 3/8 of an inch, and I'm just going to connect it like this. And then when I go to fold this together, I'm hoping I can with all of this bulk in here. Hold on, let me just cut this off. I'm just going to stick a little bit more in here so I can really nail it down here. Okay, so when you fold your dart, I'm going to fold it so the dart intake ends up on top. I've talked about this many times. In a large bust situation, if you put your dart intake face up, that helps minimize. And I just kind of want to show you how it's going to create. See how it creates a very large cup size for your large bust. So see, I'm showing you it's creating that large cup. And then see how my side seams are now matching. And the way I get the shape of that final side seam is while it's sewn together, I'm going to cut it out. And then when I open it up, it's going to give me the shape of the dart. All right, so here is my completed full bust adjustment with addition to the waist and hip. So we've added ease to the waist and hip. We've added a significant amount in the vertical direction, a ½ inch, and we added a ½ inch here, which will translate to a full inch because you're going to have a ½ inch on the left and a ½ inch on the right. So this is how you do a full bust adjustment while also adding ease to the top. So Lean, let me know if this makes sense, and if anybody else is, watching along and would like, has any questions about that, let me know. But since Kim's here, I just want to show you, if you have a small bust, you're going to do the opposite. So basically, I'm going to draw the same guidelines. I've got this, and I've got this. And I'm going to just cut that off like this. I'm going to cut the dart like this. I'm going to cut my dart. I'm going to leave my dart, well, actually, no, I'm going to cut my dart out. All right, so what I'm going to do here is, let's say we need to remove a ½ inch. So I'm going to mark a ½ inch away, like right there. And then I am going to slash my diagonal, and I'm going to, hey, what do you think I'm going to do here? I'm actually going to swing this in to reduce the ease. Okay. And then I'm going to basically tape this back together. I'm not going to add any vertical length because obviously if you are doing a small bust adjustment, chances are you're not going to need any vertical length. So I'm just going to tape that back together like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this dart leg 2 inches. Now this dart leg is 2 1/4. Well, I'm going to make it 2 inches to match, and where I'm going to get rid of it is here. So I'm basically going to do this. So I'm going to take in the side seam to get rid of the extra. So now when I put this back together, let me just put a little sticky note under there. I think I can just use this little, I'm just going to use this little piece of sticky note here. All right, so here we've got, there's our bust opening, and you can see I've redrawn my side seam here so that the dart legs match. Then I'm going to fold this, and in this case, I'm going to fold it so the dart intake faces down because it's a smaller cup size. Okay, so again, I'm going to, and you can see that makes a much smaller bust mound compared to if I show you this one again. I mean, look at the difference in cup sizes. You can definitely see this big mound versus this smaller one here. Okay, so Lean is asking if this affects the gape at the neckline. I often need a small bust adjustment, but my broad shoulders, most patterns gape on me. All right, so if your neckline gapes and you're doing a small bust adjustment, let me just unpin this for a second. I'm going to undo this for a second. I'm just going to take the bottom back off. I'm making a mess of it. Hold on. All right, I'm just going to unconnect this for a minute. Sorry about that. If your neckline is, oh, Brampton Gardener says, oh, full bust adjustments are life-changing. Yes, they are. Okay, so if your neckline is gaping, chances are you need to do some contouring in here. So what you would do is you would draw yourself a guideline from the tip of the dart over to somewhere in the curve of the neckline like this. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to slash through the neckline to the tip of the dart, and you're just going to close that a little bit. Now you can pinch out how much, whatever the neckline is gaping, just overlap it and slide it in like this. So see, I got rid of a 1/4 inch there. All right, and that's how you can get rid of gaping at the neckline, okay? Because what I did was I did the slight thing where I got rid of that, and that's going to help with the gaping neckline. Then you can put this back the way it was. You want to make sure your center front is matching. All right, and then folding this up, again, let me just finish this over here. Okay, I'm just going to cut this to match. And now I've got my completed small bust adjustment. So small bust adjustment with contour at the neckline to reduce gaping at the neckline for a small bust adjustment. You can use this technique to fix gaping on any neckline, even if you didn't have to do a full bust adjustment. So keep that in mind, okay, because that's also something that's independent of a full bust adjustment. Sometimes your bust fits, but you're more shallow through your chest. So you can contour the neckline like this and then put it back together without actually doing a full bust adjustment. But basically this is our small bust adjustment, SBA, and our full bust adjustment, FBA. So there you are. Super fun. All right, so this was really, really fun for me. I love nerding out on patterns. I love figuring out ways to make things fit properly, and I really love it that I can spend some time with you guys and answer questions that I know at least one person on the universe needed. And I was kind of happy to see that a few other people needed it, and then I was also able to show how to do a small bust adjustment for people who need that as well. So there you are. So I really hate to rush off, but I have a very busy day today, so I am... Oh, wait, Tana's saying, where were you when I was a, what, beginner sewer, Tana? I don't know. I'm so happy you found me, though. Lynn, you are so welcome. Lean says, fun for us also. Thank you. Yay. Julie says, thank you. Love your videos, and we'll try the full bust adjustment. Yes, and keep me posted. If you guys have additional questions or follow-up questions, please post those, because I can do a regroup if, something happens and you need more information. Oh, when Tana was a 30-year-old sewist. I know, but we're together now, Tana, so it's okay. Just keep me posted if you have questions. Oh, have so much fun with your granddaughter. Yay. Well, I'm really hoping I can get her outside before. We're supposed to have some pouring rain and thunderstorms a little bit later, so I'm hoping to get her outside on the playground before that happens. But in any case, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. This is always a highlight of my day. I had so much fun. Please keep me posted if you have more questions. Friday, I will be starting with a new project. I'm super excited. You'll have to join me at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for FabFit Friday to find out what it is. I'm not going to give you any spoiler alerts. So I'll see you guys on Friday. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you for watching. Okay, bye.